What's up guys, it's Let's Brawl here, and today I'm just going to kind of mess around and play with a unit that I built a long time ago, and it's Spectra, as I'm sure you guys could tell by the thumbnail or the title or something. And this is what my Spectra stats looking like. He's about 22,000 HP, about 1,000 defense, 200 speed, 100 crit rate, 75 crit damage, and max accuracy for all PvE content. Now, just real quick for those of you who don't know, because I'm assuming a lot of you don't know because I didn't know until really recently. In PvE, so not PvP, just in PvE, basically having over 55% accuracy is completely useless, and for the most part, it's just 45. Everything in the game is 45 accuracy cap except Dragon's B10, but I use Spectra in Dragon's B10, so I do need the 55 accuracy instead. But so outside of Dragons, everything above 45 is a waste, and in Dragons, everything above 55 is a waste. And so this Spectra actually is on max accuracy. So I'll just show you the runes really quick. It's Focus Energy Blade. This isn't the preferred set. The most optimal runes would be either Swift or Violent, and then the offset doesn't really matter. You could do Blade, Focus, Energy, Guard, the offset, it really doesn't matter, but Violent or Swift would be preferred to what I have here. But this is what I have. And so I have that with speed, crit rate, and HP. This isn't the most optimal build. The best way, like in terms of 246, would be speed, crit, damage, HP. But I have crit rate because I can't get crit damage and still get good crit rate on it and still get good other stats, because Spectra can be a little tricky to rune because you need HP, defense, speed, crit rate, crit damage, and accuracy. So for me, it's just easier to put a crit rate rune on instead of crit damage. But so that's Spectra. He's a natural 3-star that you can actually get in a secret dungeon if you guys do want to go out and get him yourself. And so I'm just going to be kind of like playing around with him. I use him in Dragon's B10. You can use Spectra on a million different Dragon's B10 teams, as well as I also use him in TOA normal. Not TOA hard though, I just use him in TOA normal. I don't really do TOA hard, but I don't use Spectra when I do TOA hard. But so this is a team, it's not 100% success rate. I'd want to say it's like 90-95%, because the times it does fail is if Bella will repeatedly not strip the immunity buff from the boss. And basically that's it. In the third stage, sometimes the Hua dies, but the team actually can still win without Hua. It's just not nearly as fast because my Hua is on a damage build. But Spectra, I like to use him, and a lot of other people like to use him in Dragon's B10 because of his third skill and his second skill. His first skill is basically useless. It does no debuffs. All it does is it does damage based on his speed, and people do tend to build him with a lot of speed as well as crit rate and crit damage, but it still does not do that much damage. Like, as you see, this on 75 crit damage and 200 speed, and the first skill does not hit very hard. His first skill is kind of useless, but his third skill is really good in Dragons as well in TOA, and what it does is it's AoE, and it does a speed debuff on the whole team, as well as a 50% chance to decrease the attack gauge by 30% on each target, and it's harmless. So that means if you're using it in TOA and you have someone asleep, this won't awaken them, or I guess that's how you would say it. You wouldn't. They'd still be asleep after you use it, as well as, and since it's harmless, if you're using it in TOA, it won't glance on water, which means that you can use it to speed debuff any element, unlike a lot of units, because if he didn't do that, then a lot of times you wouldn't land your speed debuff on water units because he would glance on the water units. So that's really handy. And then the other reason that he's good for Dragons is his second skill. This is also why he's good in TOA because of this too. His second skill does a single target nuke that attacks the enemy and does damage based on their max HP. And so, sorry about that text right there. But In bosses, it does a lot of damage, as well as in TOA, some of the guys start to get really crazy HP, especially getting into TOA hard. But so, it consumes 10% of his HP, but that doesn't really matter too much. And so, in dragons, you do need good damage to kill it because of the dragon's passive, which makes it so when you go below 30% HP, he does increase damage. So basically, once he gets below 30% HP, you gotta kill him quick, or else he's gonna kill you. And so that's kind of how this dragons team works. You just saw it. And so Spectra actually, for me, plays a really key role in this team because the speed debuff is insanely important. And I feel like for anyone who's trying to do a straight boss team, and if you're not succeeding, try getting a AoE speed debuff because you need the speed debuff on the right crystal to make the run a lot easier. And so that's how I use Spectra and Dragons B10. Of course, there's a million other ways you could do it. If you wanted to make this more farmable, you could take out Hua and put in Susanoo. I know that works. For Verd, you could use Bernard, or if you wanted to, you could just use another healer. Whatever you may choose. I also use him in TOA. Not every floor in TOA. I use him in TOA 100. This was my TOA 100 team for this month, which just reset on the weekend. And then for normal stages, like if I was to do like 91, I'll show you on like 81 because I want to auto it. The team I use looks like this, and it has Beretta, wherever my Beretta is, Beretta, Vero, not Susanoo, and Verd. And this is what my normal TOA team does look like, for at least when I'm autoing. When I manual it, I use a totally different team. But just to show you, I'll just put in Bernard just to make it farmable for you guys. But I do use Verd when I do it normally. And so, obviously my better runes are on Verd. My Bernard's runes are very subpar right now because I have my fastest set on Chloe, not Bernard. But I'm sure this team's still going to work in TOA. I hope it doesn't take too long, though. But so that's kind of what people use Spectra for. I don't ever see people using him in like arena offense or defense, guild battles offense or defense. And something that I've always, or not always thought was interesting, but something to know about Spectra and why Swift set is so good is because Spectra, if I'm not mistaken, has the fastest base speed in the whole game. So he gets more bonus from Swift than anyone else in the game. And Violent is also really good if you're going to be using him for second skill, because it'll make it so he can get that skill off more often. It'll make it so he's doing more damage to himself too, just because that second skill of his does damage to himself. But it should be able to work fine. Another thing I want to tell you guys is that from my experience, because I made him a long time ago, like he was like my 7th 6-star or something. So like I made him a 6-star like I want to say like April or something, April 2016, and I made him a 6-star for Dragons B10 because his base HP is so low, and I think my Beretta is gonna wipe here because my Bella picked a really bad time to heal. So hopefully this is gonna still win. I don't actually know with that. Bella needs some violent procs. But anyways, like I was saying, he's very, very squishy. So okay, that's the end of Beretta. But so since he's so squishy, I find that you really can't use him in Dragons B10 without 6-starring him. Like maybe if you had him on like a double HP build, like HP, crit rate HP, or speed HP, it would work. But I feel like if you're using Spectra and not building him with speed and crit rate, then there's not really a great point in using Spectra. Because if you're using Spectra just for his 3rd skill, you might as well just use like Arya or like Shannon, or I don't know, like something that does other stuff on, like, does useful stuff on their other skills, because there's plenty of units that do AoE speed debuff and still do stuff on their other skills. Whereas Spectra, if you're just using him for a speed debuff, then his other two skills are basically useless. Like, if you don't have your Spectra ruined with crit rate and crit damage, then Spectra is, in my opinion, literally, like, almost useless. Like, it's not useless, but it's not nearly as good as any other speed debuffer in the whole game, because you're using him just for his third skill, which isn't anything that amazing. And so that's my recommendation on that. And if you're going to use him just for a second skill, there are people that do that and just ruin him, like speed, crit damage, and then attack, speed, crit damage, HP, which is fine, but I feel it's best to ruin him as I ruined him. That's why I chose to ruin him like that, I guess. And yeah, this team did not do that amazing on this auto run, but I mean, to be fair, I didn't realize I was bringing my Beretta against Vigors that were going to death break me and kill me. So yeah, it still won though. But I think Spectra's a really good unit, but not good in what's it called? Not good for early game because his rune requirements are too high. Now for Giants, I wouldn't recommend him in Giants B10 because it is water. And in Giants B9, you could definitely use him. In Giants B8, you could definitely use him. In fact, just because I was talking about dungeons, I definitely do not recommend using him in Necro. But I'll try this team right here. I have no guarantee. Oh, I just realized I have Lucian in this team. That wasn't on purpose. Yeah, that was stupid. I have Lucian in a fire dungeon. But Spectra's also really good in the elemental dungeons, particularly the wind and the fire dungeon. I think I only use him in Hall of Wind, but you could use him in Hall of Fire if you wanted. And I know this is a commonly used guy, but I don't know. That's kind of like all I really have to say about Spectra. I obviously don't run this team. I don't know if this team. I'm assuming it's probably gonna work. I don't know how the Lucian part's gonna work out, but I don't run this team. I don't run Giants B9. I've never once like consistently farmed Giants B9 because I went from B8 to B10, which is kind of standard. That's what most people do. And I did do Dragons B9 for a long time with Spectra in the team. Actually, I used to do before I pulled a Verd. I used to do Dragons B9 with Vero, Bella, Spectra, and then double Huaz. And so that was my first, not my first, but it was one of my Dragons B9 teams. And for those of you that are curious, it was about a 2-minute run, if I remember, 2-minute 30-second run. Maybe 2-minute 30-second, I don't remember. And so it actually does look like this team might win. I forgot that in Giants B9 the right crystal does a death buff instead of a death break, which is definitely going to help the team stay alive. Will help my team stay alive, and I guess help him stay alive to an extent. But that's Giants B9 in it. I could do a million other things with Spectra. I can make a million other team combinations with him. As you saw, this was 1 minute and 42 seconds, which is actually pretty good, and especially considering I had Lucian in there, who's wind, and this is a fire dungeon. So that team actually worked out a lot better than I thought it would. But that's kind of it for Spectra. If there's any other units that I have that you want me to make a video on soon, I can definitely do that. I kind of plan on anytime I make something, like anytime I make a 6-star, I kind of make like a video on it just to kind of like have fun with it. But these are the 6 stars I have and the 5 stars that I have. And so, I mean, if you have any requests for who I should 6-star next, because I actually do have, like 8 5-star fodder, and so I can 6-star something, I just don't know what yet. If you want to leave a comment and as a recommendation, I'll definitely look at it. But that's all I really have for today, though, guys. So may the best year today's be the worst year tomorrow.